My name is Elena Rodriguez, and I never imagined my life would turn out quite like this. At 34, I thought I had everything figured out. I was married to Michael, my college sweetheart, and we had been trying to have a child for the past 3 years without success. My sister, Sophia, was my closest confidant and lived just across town with her long-term boyfriend, Carlos. Our family had always been close-knit. I'm the older sister by 2 years, and Sophia and I had shared everything throughout our lives: secrets, clothes, dreams, and disappointments. Our parents had raised us to be strong, independent women, but we'd always maintained an incredibly tight bond. Michael and I had a comfortable life. He worked as a software engineer at a tech startup, and I was a marketing director for a fashion brand. We lived in a beautiful suburban home in Sacramento with a perfectly manicured garden and 2 rescue dogs. From the outside, we looked like the quintessential perfect couple, but underneath that polished exterior, we were struggling with something that consumed us both: our inability to conceive. We had gone through multiple fertility treatments, countless doctor's appointments, and emotional roller coasters. Each negative pregnancy test felt like a personal failure. Michael tried to be supportive, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes every time we received bad news. "It'll happen," he would say, holding me close. "We just need to keep trying." But after 3 years of trying, hope was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Everything changed on a warm Saturday evening in late summer. We were having a family dinner at our parents' house, a monthly tradition we had maintained for years. Sophia and Carlos were there, along with our parents and our younger brother, Marco. As we sat around the dinner table, I noticed Sophia looking somewhat pale and distracted. When our mother asked if she was feeling all right, Sophia surprised everyone by announcing, "I'm pregnant." The table erupted in excitement. Our mother burst into tears of joy, and Carlos beamed with pride. Marco congratulated them, and I found myself forcing a smile while feeling a strange mix of happiness for my sister and deep personal pain. Later that night, when everyone had left and Michael and I were alone, I broke down. "Why can't we have a baby?" I sobbed into his shoulder. "Sophia gets pregnant so easily, and we've been trying for years." Michael held me close, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't know, Elena, but we'll keep trying." Little did we know how dramatically our lives were about to change. 2 weeks after Sophia's announcement, I went for another round of fertility tests. The doctor, Dr. Rodriguez, no relation, was thorough and compassionate. She ran a comprehensive panel of tests and asked detailed questions about our medical history. "Sometimes," she explained, "fertility issues can be complex and interconnected." A week later, she called me personally to discuss the results. Her tone was unusually serious. "Elena," she said, "I need you to come to the office. We've discovered something unusual in your test results." When I arrived, Dr. Rodriguez explained that they had found some genetic markers that might be affecting our fertility. She recommended additional genetic testing for both Michael and me. The results were shocking. We discovered that Michael had a rare genetic condition that made natural conception extremely challenging. It wasn't impossible, but the odds were significantly lower than we had previously understood. "There are options, Doctor," Rodriguez said. "IVF, genetic screening, donor sperm. We can discuss everything in detail." Michael was devastated. He felt responsible, blaming himself for our inability to conceive. I reassured him that we were in this together, that it changed nothing about our love for each other. Little did we know that fate had other plans. 2 months after Sophia's pregnancy announcement, something unexpected happened. I began experiencing strange symptoms: fatigue, mild nausea, and unusual food cravings. At first, I dismissed them. We had been through so many disappointments that I didn't want to get my hopes up. But when the symptoms persisted, I decided to take a pregnancy test. I remember that moment vividly, standing in our bathroom, hands trembling as I unwrapped the pregnancy test. The silence was deafening as I waited for the results, my heart racing with a mixture of hope and apprehension. When the 2 pink lines appeared, I felt my world tilt on its axis. Pregnant. Mr. After years of trying, countless fertility treatments, and emotional roller coasters, it seemed almost impossible to believe. I walked out of the bathroom, the test clutched in my hand, my mind spinning. Sophia was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up, sensing something was different in my demeanor. "What's wrong?" she asked, putting down the knife. I couldn't speak. Instead, I held out the pregnancy test. Her eyes widened, moving from the test to my face. For a moment, we just stared at each other, suspended in disbelief. Then Sophia let out a sound, half laugh, half sob, and rushed towards me. We embraced, our bodies shaking with a complex mix of emotions: joy, shock, fear, and an overwhelming sense of hope. "We're really pregnant," I whispered, more to myself than to her. Little did we know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change our lives forever. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions and doctor's appointments. We wanted to be cautious. Our past experiences had taught us that hope could be fragile. Dr. Martinez, our fertility specialist, ran a comprehensive series of tests, each one feeling like an eternity of waiting. "Your hormone levels look promising," she said during our consultation, her tone measured but optimistic. "But we'll need to monitor you closely, especially given your history." Sophia became incredibly protective. She researched everything: nutrition, potential risks, prenatal care. Her determination was both endearing and slightly overwhelming. I caught her reading pregnancy books at midnight, highlighter in hand, making detailed notes. "We need to know everything," she'd say, her eyes bright with a mix of excitement and careful planning. I found myself experiencing a strange combination of joy and anxiety. Every twinge, every slight discomfort made me worry. Was everything okay? Would this pregnancy be different? My mother was the first family member we told. When we shared the news, she burst into tears, hugging us both so tightly I could barely breathe. "I've been praying for this moment," she whispered. As the weeks progressed, the reality of our pregnancy began to feel more real. We started converting the spare room into a nursery, painting the walls a soft, neutral gray. Each brushstroke felt like a promise, a declaration of hope. But beneath the excitement, a quiet fear lingered. We had learned that miracles could be fragile, and nothing was certain. The first ultrasound was a moment suspended in time. As the technician moved the wand across Sophia's abdomen, the room filled with a steady, rhythmic sound, our baby's heartbeat, strong and consistent. "Everything looks perfect," the technician said, pointing out the tiny form on the screen. Tears streamed down Sophia's cheeks. I held her hand, my own emotions threatening to overwhelm me. This was real. This was happening. We began to share our news cautiously. Close friends and immediate family were told, but we weren't ready for a broader announcement. The scars of previous losses ran deep, and we wanted to protect this fragile hope. Work became a delicate balance. Sophia was determined to continue her research project, but her doctor recommended reduced hours and minimal stress. I took on more responsibilities at home, ensuring she had everything she needed. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," she would joke, but I could see she appreciated the extra care. We started attending prenatal classes together. Surrounded by other expectant parents, we slowly allowed ourselves to dream. We discussed names, debated nursery designs, and imagined the future. One evening, as we sat on our porch watching the sunset, Sophia placed my hand on her still flat stomach. "Can you believe it?" she whispered. "After everything we've been through." The journey hadn't been easy. Years of fertility treatments, heartbreaking losses, and moments of deep despair had tested our relationship, but here we were, hopeful, together, expecting a miracle. Little did we know, our greatest challenges and most profound joys were still ahead. As the weeks progressed, Sophia's body began to change. The first trimester's exhaustion gradually gave way to a newfound energy. Her morning sickness, which had been intense, started to subside. We had our second major ultrasound at 16 weeks, the anatomy scan. This would be the first detailed look at our baby's development. I took time off work, determined to be there for every moment. The technician moved the wand carefully, taking measurements and checking each tiny structure. I watched the screen intently, my heart racing with each new image. "Would you like to know the sex?" the technician asked. Sophia and I exchanged a look. We had discussed this extensively. "Yes," we said simultaneously. "It's a girl," the technician smiled. "A daughter." The word hung in the air, filled with possibility and wonder. We held hands, exchanging a look that spoke volumes: joy, hope, a touch of nervousness. That evening, we began to seriously discuss names. We wanted something meaningful, something that captured both our cultural backgrounds. Sophia's family was Colombian, mine was Irish. We wanted a name that bridged those worlds. "What about Elena?" Sophia suggested. "It means light in Spanish, and it has a beautiful sound." I loved it immediately. Elena, our daughter's name. As her pregnancy progressed, Sophia's scientific mind couldn't help but marvel at the biological process. She would often share fascinating details about fetal development, her research background mixing with her personal experience. "Did you know," she'd say, "that by this week she has fingerprints? Unique patterns that are already completely her own." Her excitement was infectious. We started preparing the nursery, soft yellows and whites with touches of green. Books began to accumulate, tiny clothes were carefully folded, and a sense of anticipation filled our home. But beneath the joy, a subtle undercurrent of anxiety remained. Our previous losses had taught us that nothing was guaranteed. As Sophia entered her third trimester, the pregnancy became more physically challenging. Her back ached, sleep was increasingly difficult, and the baby's movements became more pronounced, sometimes feeling like small earthquakes beneath her skin. One night, around 32 weeks, I found her sitting in the nursery, her hand resting on her belly, tears streaming down her face. I knew immediately this wasn't sadness, but a complex mix of emotions. "Everything okay?" I asked softly. She looked up, her eyes both vulnerable and strong. "I'm just overwhelmed," she said. "After everything we've been through, she feels so real now. So close. We had been through so much. 2 previous miscarriages that had tested our relationship and our hope. Each loss had been devastating, a quiet grief that lingered between us. But this pregnancy felt different, more resilient, more hopeful. Her doctors were monitoring her closely. At 35 weeks, an ultrasound revealed that Elena was in a breech position. The possibility of a cesarean section became very real. "I'm nervous about the surgery," Sophia admitted during one of her checkups. Her medical background made her acutely aware of potential complications. Her OB/GYN, Dr. Rodriguez, was reassuring. "Your health and the baby's health are the priority. We have excellent protocols for breech deliveries." The week before her due date, we attended a final childbirth preparation class. Sophia took notes meticulously, her scientific mind wanting to understand every potential scenario. I watched her, marveling at her strength. As her due date approached, a mix of excitement and anticipation filled our home. The nursery was ready, a soft, welcoming space with handmade quilts from both our grandmothers, books stacked carefully, a mobile of stars hanging above the crib. "Are you ready?" I asked her one evening as we sat on the couch, her hand guiding mine to feel Elena's movements. She smiled, that brilliant, confident smile that had first attracted me to her years ago. "As ready as we'll ever be." Little did we know how dramatically our lives were about to change. The first weeks with Elena were nothing like we had imagined. Parenting books and prenatal classes hadn't prepared us for the beautiful chaos that now consumed our lives. Sophia, typically so methodical in her scientific research, found herself struggling with the unpredictability of a newborn. Her doctoral work in molecular biology seemed almost simple compared to deciphering Elena's cries and sleep patterns. I watched her approach motherhood with the same intense curiosity she applied to her research, constantly reading, tracking, and analyzing. "I've created a spreadsheet to track her feeding and sleeping cycles," she announced one morning, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. I couldn't help but laugh. Only Sophia would create a data-driven approach to caring for a newborn. My parents came to help during the first month. My mother, a retired nurse, brought a practical wisdom that balanced Sophia's scientific approach. She showed us how to swaddle Elena perfectly, how to calm her during colicky moments, and shared stories of my own infancy that made Sophia laugh. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The lack of sleep hit us hard. Sophia's research grant was temporarily paused, and the pressure of new parenthood began to strain our relationship. Late-night arguments would start over the most trivial things: a misplaced burp cloth, an unwashed bottle, a moment of perceived inequality in childcare. One particularly challenging night, around Elena's 6-week mark, everything came to a head. Elena had been crying for hours, inconsolable despite our best efforts. Sophia was pumping breast milk, exhausted and frustrated, when I accidentally knocked over a carefully prepared bottle. "I can't do this," Sophia suddenly broke down, tears mixing with spilled milk. "I'm not cut out to be a mother." I held her then, our own tears mixing. It was a vulnerable moment that stripped away all our carefully constructed expectations. But Elena was transforming us. With each passing week, we found our rhythm. Sophia discovered a patience she never knew she possessed. Her scientific mind, once focused solely on complex molecular structures, now found wonder in the smallest details of Elena's development. By 3 months, Elena was smiling, real, genuine smiles that seemed to light up the entire room. She had Sophia's intense gaze and my tendency to make silly faces. During weekend mornings, we'd spend hours just watching her, marveling at how something so small could completely change our world. Sophia's research colleagues were initially skeptical about her return to work, but she proved them wrong, becoming even more focused and efficient. She would often bring Elena to the lab during shorter shifts, her colleagues marveling at how she balanced motherhood and cutting-edge research. "She's going to change the world," Sophia would say, looking at Elena. Just like her mom's. As Elena grew, so did our family's story, a narrative of love, science, challenge, and unexpected joy. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end. We truly appreciate your support. If you found this content enjoyable, entertaining, and informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Endless Tales of Love. Your support helps us create more great content for you. Until next time, take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.
No need to question, no need to prove. When it's real, you just know the truth. No labels, no lines to define. Love is love and love is divine. Don't matter where, don't matter who. When it feels right, it's always true. No rules, no cages, no disguise. Love is clear like an open sky. Love is love, no need to explain. It's the fire in the heart and the calm in the rain. No doubt, no fear, just something true. If it's love, then it's you. Love is love, no lines to break. It's the warmth you feel when you're wide awake. No shadows, no shame, no